George Singh, my name is George Singh. I'm the CEO of Saltex, Trade Shows and Promotions. We are most famous for being the producers of the Chutney Soca Monarch show, which is now in its 26th year. So we started events in 1991. I had a business place at Gulf City Shopping Complex, and a group of businessmen came together and wanted to find a way to generate traffic in the mall. So we came up with this idea to do a trade show in the mall. That was back in 91. And the first trade show we had 8 companies, but it brought a lot of people to the mall. And from the second year, I actually picked it up as a business and established the name Saltex and started to run with it. And I remember one day, a friend of mine came into the store. I still had the store running in those days. And he said, "George, you ever thought of doing a chutney show?" And I was like, "Okay, what is that?" You know, in those days I really wasn't familiar with what a chutney show was about. He said, "Well, listen, this weekend they have a show in Samar Entertainment Center." He said, "Come, let's go." And I remember going down there, and they had like 4,000 or 5,000 people in Penal in this venue called Samar Entertainment Center. And I stood up in the back of the crowd. And you will appreciate, from a promotional mind, the vibes that someone would get, the energy that you would feel, you know. And I felt that energy. It was so strong. And I looked at what was going on and I said, "Wow, this is something I need to pay more attention to." That year, Lotela came on the scene, Sonny Man song. Chutney Bacchanal was out with Chris Garcia. Ajala was singing Sonani. So there were a lot of songs that were crossing into the Indo market. And I came up with this, William Monroe was already doing the Soca Monarch. And I thought to myself, I said, "Well, okay, if William Monroe is doing Soca Monarch, why we don't do a Chutney Soca Monarch?" In those days, they never referred to it really as Chutney Soca. They would use all kind of different words, Soca Chutney, this, that, right? But I say, you know what, let's call it Chutney Soca. And I remember going out came up with the idea, came up with the concept, everything, and going out to radio stations and stuff. And I went to, the first meeting I went to, the brand manager at a particular station told me, he said, "George, don't bring this in Carnival. This ain't no place in Carnival. You will fail. Cliff Harris and Roy Mirage will eat you up, right? Don't put this in Carnival. Take it out of Carnival." And I remember leaving that meeting that day even more motivated and more convinced that the idea that I was coming to the table with was something that would work. That year, the sponsors that came on board in a small way. Even the car that we got for Sonny Man, we paid the majority of the price of the car. And the show was a great success. And at the end of the season, we received a letter from Louis Singh, who was, I think, was at the time the GM at TTT, and congratulating us on Chutney Soca Monarch being one of the success stories of Carnival 1996. And that's where we started. So when we started in 91, we really started doing trade shows. So we did a lot of trade shows where companies would come and set up exhibits, mostly at Gulf City. So we did business shows and car shows. So that was for the first 5 years of the business, and which we continue today too. That's a major part of what we do, right? So we've continued doing the conferences and trade shows is a major part of our business. Chutney Soca Monarch and Carnival promotions is really just to kickstart the year. But really and truly, after Carnival, conference and trade show business is what we do, as that's our core business. Chutney Soca Monarch was our first jump into the party kind of atmosphere. Since then, we also did do Kanchan and Babla, which was a Bollywood act that we brought in. And that was a very, very successful concert. That was the first foreign act that we ever dealt with, which was done at Skinner Park. And during the years of Chutney Soca Monarch, we've also had foreign acts guest appearing as openers for the final. The Bollywood shows is something that we never really extended into. We really concentrated on promoting the local culture. And that is where we have stayed, and we have really, I think that we have been able to achieve a lot since 1996 in bringing that local culture to the front. When we started in 96, Chutney Soca was something that was more of a backyard kind of jam and a country kind of event, right? We brought it front and center. I remember in 2012, I think it was, we came to Port of Spain, the Queen's Park Oval. And one of the reasons, we only stayed 1 year, and one of the reasons I came to the Queen's Park Oval with Chutney Soca Monarch is because I wanted to make a point that Chutney Soca Monarch was now a national event, and it was of national importance, and it had a place in Carnival. So we dropped it in the middle of Port of Spain, right? And it was a success. And my plan for that was really a 3-year plan of keeping Chutney Soca Monarch in Port of Spain. But of course, the core market is in South. And I remember Winston Peters was the minister at the time. And he was happy when I decided to bring it to Port of Spain. But just after the show, he came back to me and he said, George, I think you need to go back South. So we went back, we came back to South the following year. Well, one of the biggest challenges that we have faced over the years is sponsorship. I think that if anybody had to analyze any event, the biggest challenge would always be sponsorship. Getting people on board, having the event packaged in a way that is attractive to the corporate sponsors that you want to attract. I have always felt that in doing any event that we're doing, whether it is a corporate trade show event or an entertainment event, and an entertainment event in particular, that really and truly you should try to cover all your costs through sponsorship, so that by the time you open your gates, you don't have to be biting your fingernails wondering whether rain gonna fall, whether anybody gonna come, on that kind of thing. So we try to cover all our expenses up front through sponsorship. So I think one of the things with sponsorship, we have had good support from sponsors. And I think one of the main reasons that sponsors have stayed with us is because of the fact that they recognize, one, what we're doing. We have stayed the course of what we're doing. We've remained focused on developing the art form of Chutney Soca as a genre of music. We have become the one company that is now promoting Indo culture in a way where we've created that platform for it. That is a big platform. We are well respected among the artistic community, and the corporate world sees the work that we're doing, so they continue to support us. And I think that is very important to really be focused on what you're doing and never make promises that you wouldn't keep. You know, so if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you need to do it. And if you don't do it, you need to explain to them why it wasn't done, if there was either an act of God or something that really prevented you from doing it. And that, I think, is the most important thing. We have over-delivered on promises, and that is something that we continue to do. We prefer to over-deliver on our promise than under-deliver. So for many years now, we have had a lot of international participants in Chutney Soca Monarch. Participants from Guyana, from New York, from Canada, even as far as London. We've had people from Holland. We had a guy from Holland last year, I think it was, that came into the show. So we've had a lot of international performance. What we did with this year is a very different kind of year. So everything is virtual, as they say, virtual in inverted commas. Virtual is not a word I like very much. I prefer to refer to it as online or TV. So I have always referred to the show as a TV/online show. I think that this year, when the announcement was made that Carnival was cancelled, everybody started to feel, well, oh gosh, what's going to happen? But we looked at it as an opportunity, and we decided at that point that we were going to make Chutney Soca Monarch something different, something that looked different. We had the opportunity now to pre-record a show, package it for TV and for the online audience, because over the last 10 years, what we have realized is that the online audience, the TV audience that is looking at the show, is probably 100 times bigger than the audience that is in front of your stage. And I think that is the thing that a lot of people need to think about and recognize this year, especially with events. So you have the opportunity now to project your event to a much wider audience, a much bigger footprint, and really expand. If you do your thing properly, you can really expand the reach of what you're doing. And this is what we are trying to achieve this year. So we got a really, really good response. I was a little bit skeptical in the earlies because I wasn't sure what kind of response we will get from the artists. But once we started having meetings with them, right, and they understood that we were very serious about what we were going to do, they came on board, full support. One of the things we did differently this year too is we appointed agents in Guyana, Toronto, and New York. And we gave them a mandate to get their artists involved in the show so that they were able to register in Guyana locally, register in Toronto locally, register in New York locally, right? Send their songs to us, we would screen it. And then once they made the semi-final, they had a mandate again to do a live performance, which we monitored via Zoom, right? And record that performance and send it to us, which we have now packaged into the show that people would have seen this weekend gone here at the semi-final. So there are two shows that I would say, the largest number of people we ever had at our show was 18,000, which was pretty big, Skinner Park, right? That's the largest number of patrons we ever had at our show, that was many years ago. But we had a show, I think it was 1997 or 98, whereby, and the reason I want to talk about this show is because there was so much rain that day that everything shut down in the country. Every single show shut down. Even Wassa, which we clashed with. So Wassa, the water stopped Wassa from happening that night, right? And everybody went home. So nothing was happening that night. Everybody was at home. And Chutney Soca Monarch was live on TV with 10,000 people in Skinner Park, right? People got soaking wet. They ended up in their underwear, but they had a ball. They were covered in mud. It was one of the best events that I think people would remember. People who went to that party would probably remember it. And the second ground where people parked was so muddy, they needed tractors to pull out the cars the next morning. So it was really an unforgettable event, right? But one that will go down on the records. And we have all the clippings and stuff from those things that show that not even water stopped Wassa, but it couldn't stop Chutney Soca Monarch. Well, the most memorable event, I would say, there were good memories on that same night and bad memories on the same night too. So we could probably use that as good and bad. Was the year that the 2 million prize came up, which was the first year. So I finally felt that, okay, we had finally gotten the recognition that we needed for Chutney Soca Monarch, because here it was a level playing field where Soca Monarch, Calypso Monarch, and Chutney Soca Monarch were given the same prize structure. So that is something that we were fighting for all along, and I was very happy about that. And that is the year I think that Nicky Jai won, right? On the bad part, we had Marshall Montano, I think, open the show that year. So it was a really fantastic show. The bad part is that that was also the year that Ravi B went on stage and tell people if they were not happy with the show to spell something on the stage. I don't know if you remember that, right? And people just rained bottles on the stage. So that was a bad experience. I don't think that Ravi truly understood the power of his words and what would have happened. He subsequently apologized and we accepted his apology. And I must say that Ravi B has become one of the most gracious people in the industry. And Ravi, I love you to death, right? You know that. So I'm not bad talking you in any way. But he is somebody that has grown in stature, and he's one of the most respected artists in the industry today. I think he would have learned from that experience. So I think competitions are very important for the industry. I think that it has developed the soca market, the Chutney soca market, in a way that could not have been done if those competitions were not there. We have seen artists develop and grow and become famous. Once you win one of those competitions, it is amazing how your life changes. I remember when Ravi B won the first time, and I met him, I think it was the Monday after the show, right? And I met him in the car park of, in those days, CNMG, which would be TTT again, right? And he came to me and he said, George, he said, I would have never believed that winning Chutney Soca Monarch would have this kind of impact. And it was just a few days, it was 2 days after. So I told him, I said, Ravi, it's only 2 days. I said, believe me if I tell you, your life has changed forever. And it does change, it's a life-changing experience, and I'm sure it would have been like that for many of the soca artists also that won Soca Monarch. You know, your price point goes up immediately. So if you might have been getting 5,000, your price point now goes to 10,000, you know, or even more than that, depending. Your jobs, your gigs that you're doing increases so much more. So that even if you won, let's say for the sake of argument, $500,000 in a competition like that, right? The amount of money that you make during the year is probably 4 and 5 times that. So for them, and holding the title is something that they want. We started Chutney Soca in Guyana. So we actually went across to Guyana. We had dealt directly with the minister in 2012, and when we brought the winners to Trinidad. And we did that for a couple of years, and they have continued doing it. So I would say that we have managed to export it into Guyana. We also had international acts performing at Chutney Soca Monarch for many years. Chutney Soca Monarch, around Carnival time, everybody is, the diaspora at least outside, is always wanting to know, well, who win Chutney Soca Monarch, who win Soca Monarch, who win the Calypso Monarch, you know, so that kind of thing. This year in particular, I think that we were able to achieve a lot more because of the fact that we were able to appoint agents now as representatives of Chutney Soca Monarch in Guyana, New York, and Toronto. So we have actually expanded the brand in a year when things are on a down low. But we've been able to expand our footprint and make it bigger and even more successful. And I'm hoping that by the end of the season, when we do the final and we look at the numbers of people looking at the show and the response and the feedback, that we are able to see that Chutney Soca Monarch in 2021, as they said in 1996, was one of the success stories of Carnival. I'm hoping that in 2021, that when people look back, they will say Chutney Soca Monarch was one of the success stories of a year when there was no Carnival. The semi-final, which would have shown over the weekend, would have been available to international viewers via YouTube Live and Facebook streams. We would have multiple streams all over. It's absolutely free to the public. So it's not a pay-per-view event. I have been approached by many people who said to me, okay, this is a pandemic year, let's do it pay-per-view. No, I don't want to do pay-per-view and have 300 people or 400 people looking at it who would have paid. I want thousands of people to be able to. For me, the importance of pushing this on a stream is having thousands of people look at it, right? The more people that look at it, the better for the brand. So it would have shown on YouTube Live, Facebook, and the final, which is on February the 13th, Carnival Saturday, is also being shown YouTube Live and Facebook streams, multiple streams. People will be able to see it wherever they are. One of the themes of Chutney Soca Monarch this year is coming to a screen near you. And your phone screen, your iPad screen is the most popular screen that people have now. It's no longer your TV screen alone. You know, that screen that you look at every minute or every 5 minutes of the day is really the screen. So you can access Chutney Soca Monarch on any device, and it's absolutely free to the public. I thought it was important to do this year in particular because even though we have a strong local music industry, I don't believe that we can go a year without these competitions. I think it is very important to maintain the competitions, to help motivate the artists, and more so this year because of the fact that the industry has been on a down low since March. People have not been working. People have been home. People have been depressed, demotivated, all of these things. So coming down to the end of the year, one of the things I said to myself is that, and I said it to artists, I said, you know, what is going to be our four-letter word for 2020? Hope. And hope was what we hope. We wanted to bring hope to the artists, and I feel that by doing CSM, we are extending that olive branch to them, that hope, that level of hope to them, that there's something happening. And you wouldn't believe me if I tell you that when we announced that we were doing CSM, everybody just got excited. There was a build-up of hype, excitement in the industry. I have not told anybody what the prize money is, if there's even prize money, right? But these people are excited to be part of the show. You know, at the semi-final, when we recorded the semi-final, artists came to me after and told me thank you. They were happy to be there. They were excited. They felt good. They were on stage. They didn't have an audience in front of them, but it was them performing on a stage live. It made them feel different. It gave them that sense of hope that something is going on. It motivated them. And I am happy that we were able to bring that to the table.